I'm just going to sit in the background and take some behind the scenes photos for you.
Yeah.
Cool. So if you wonder why I'm walking around like
that is your microphone there. And we will just get straight into it. Is there anything like off the bat that you don't, there's like, I've got some questions about like the spinal cord injury and like wings for life and everything.
Yep.
But apart from that, it's just mainly about childhood and then your career, pretty much. So you're perfectly happy with that?
Yeah, easy.
Okay, cool. Right, well, let's just get started. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Toe the Line. I'm back at Red Bull HQ, which is very exciting. We love it here. I was saying to someone earlier, I was like, I could probably live in this building. I think it's so fun. But today I'm talking to a downhill mountain bike rider, and that is Brook Macdonald. Brook, welcome to Toe the Line.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm very excited to be talking to you. I have been like binging all of your videos and stuff on Instagram and like doing some YouTube watching as well. And off the bat, I just want to say, are you like mentally okay? Because the stuff that you do is a little bit insane.
Probably not.
No.
probably a little bit unwell.
I watched like some behind the scenes stuff of the Crankworks stuff down in Rotorua that was just happening and stuff, and that was just insane. And then you went over to Tasmania earlier in the year as well, and I was just like, there's just no way. Like, I thought like cliff diving was pushing it, and then you see what you're doing and I'm like, no way, no thank you.
Yeah, I guess like with anything, it becomes a normal, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, from the outside, I feel like our sport looks so crazy and
100%.
so hard for people to understand how we can go so fast down a hill. And
do you use the brakes at all or no?
well, I mean, try not to. Definitely have to sometimes.
I'd be like clenching the brakes the whole way down, like, please just let me not fall off.
Yeah. Sometimes it's actually easier to ride to brake less. Because it makes everything so much smoother, and obviously you go faster so you get to the bottom quicker, but yeah, for
sure. No, that's cool. Well, my first question and most important question is, how are you? How are you doing? How's life? How's everything going for Brook?
Yeah, really good. I think I'm probably at a really good point in my life now. I definitely struggled probably for a good 2 years with racing. I just struggled with my bike. That was probably my biggest thing. Because I feel like in our sport, probably people don't know, but equipment is such a big part of you. And if you don't have the right equipment or the equipment that doesn't suit you, it can definitely take a big toll on you. And it definitely took a massive toll on me, mentally and physically. I definitely got to a point in my life where I was contemplating on my career and doubting myself. I definitely had a lot of self-doubt, which in my sport you don't need.
No.
And
you got to be pretty onto it at all times.
Yeah. Confidence is huge in my sport, and I lacked a lot of that. And I think for probably 3 years I lacked a lot of a lot of confidence, and I'm slowly building it. I didn't think it was going to be hard to bring it back, but it is, just because of everything that I've gone through and had to deal with. So overall life is good. As for anyone, you have those ups and downs, and
for sure.
you've got to go through those lows to really find out the person you are and what you can deal with and bring that back. So
talking about confidence for a little bit, we're probably getting a bit ahead of ourselves, but when it comes to confidence, I think there are like, because I have a background of swimming and athletics, I think in those sort of sports especially, you kind of have a bit of like wiggle room for confidence kind of waning, and I think it's just easier, I guess, for those sort of sports to you can have a bad day and still do pretty well without having your confidence right up at 100. I'm guessing for something like downhill mountain bike riding, because there are so many factors, not only like crazy jumps that you're doing and all that, but the speed at which you're doing that, and you've really got to back yourself in those moments and not second guess yourself. How have you found building that confidence back up?
I guess a lot of that does come with it, because at the end of the day we only get one run, and that one run is to put everything together and make it the most perfect run. And I feel like half the time it's so hard to do that. And that, I think confidence definitely comes with that, and I feel like if you have all the confidence in the world, it makes it so much easier. So yeah, for me, it definitely has been hard to get that back. But I feel like results, ticking small goals, all of that sort of stuff definitely brings more confidence. I recently just signed with a new team too, so a change also for me is another confidence booster too.
Yeah, nice. Oh, that's cool. Well, I'm glad to hear that you're slowly building that confidence back up, and it's cool to see that those results are also showing, because you've done pretty well this year already, so that's exciting for you.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit, every guest that I get on, I always go back and, ask them a little bit about their childhood, what was growing up like, what was school like, so can you tell me what little Brook was like growing up?
Little Brook was a little shit. Yeah, I was pretty active. I played a lot of rugby. I played rugby from when I was 5 to about 17. So that was basically what I did for a lot of my spare time.
What position did you play?
First 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Obviously, every kid in New Zealand's dream is to be an All Black, and that was mine. I also did a lot of like athletics, swimming, cricket, hockey.
So quite an active kid.
Yeah, yeah. And I wasn't great at school. I just wanted to be doing sports.
No,
so
I can relate.
yeah, my focus at school was definitely not what it could have been. But I mean, yeah, it definitely has paid off. And yeah, I guess rugby was a lot of my spare time growing up. So yeah, going through primary school to intermediate to high school until I found mountain biking. And I guess with mountain biking, I always rode a bike. Yeah. And like it was
just not to the extent of downhill now.
Yeah. And I didn't even know what mountain biking was. I kind of just knew what BMX was and just rode my bike to school and jumped off curbs and thought that was extreme. Until
I think that's extreme.
Until I got into mountain biking, and I got into mountain biking when I was about 11. I just had sort of ventured ways with a good friend that I played rugby with in primary school, and then we met back up, and he was mountain biking at the time, and got me back into it, and we raced together, and he sort of went his way and I went my way, and my way I ended up where I am now.
When you were in school, apart from like the kind of athlete in you, were there any subjects that you thought like you might want to give a crack, or was it solely just like no thank you?
PE.
Okay. Gotcha.
I only did PE because I knew that I didn't have to spend as much time in the class. But no, I think to be honest, I really struggled at school. I don't know. I feel like I just couldn't sit in class and focus. And there wasn't really any subjects that like caught my attention. And, I didn't think, I wanted to be an accountant or, a builder or anything like that. I kind of just wanted to be, an athlete at something. And I feel like I definitely, but becoming an athlete and traveling so young, I've learned way more than I would have ever learned at school.
No, for sure.
Just like
general
life skills, and obviously like, being an athlete and it being my full-time job, like, getting paid and figuring out what I'm going to do with my money, all that sort of stuff. Like I kind of just learned from myself and people that have given me advice from along the way. So that was probably PE was my favourite subject.
I think I wagged like the last 3 years of school, so I'm right there with you. I still use a calculator now for like 2 + 2 just to like make sure I'm doing it right.
I'm like that as
I'm
well.
like just to like really solidify that I've got this right. Let's just add it on the calculator to make sure.
I'm the same.
But no, I totally get you on that. School, I feel like especially like when you're in school, like at school age, there's so much pressure on you to like, not only from yourself but like people around you and teachers and stuff, and they're like, you've got to do well in school, otherwise there's no kind of future for you after school. Not that they like say those words, but there's like that like kind of,
but they hint it, right?
Sure. And then they're like, oh, if you don't go to uni you're not going to do well. And I find it really interesting that a lot of athletes that I've talked to, and like myself included, like it was fine.
Yeah,
there was no need to stress.
I got a lot of that at school, and like I felt like teachers looked at me and were like, yeah,
They're
he's
like,
not going to go
he's-
anywhere in life. And then 3 years later, when I'm like competing overseas, they're like, hey, you want to come back into school and
Oh, I hate that so much.
come talk to our students? And I'm like, yeah, you're the person that was telling me that I'm not going to I'm not going to go anywhere in life.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I've gotten that too. It's really interesting, like the kind of change and shift when you see someone being successful and they're like, oh, they could have done it, and I think sometimes people only wait for people to be successful to really give them like their flowers or be like, oh, you could do it, rather than just believing in them from the start.
Yeah, I felt like there was only one teacher at my school, or at my high school, that actually believed that I was going to get somewhere.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Speaking of like believing in yourself, did you have any like athletes, I guess, when you were in school that you looked up to and you were like, oh, if they can do it, I can do it? Or was there anyone kind of like around you where they were like, okay, if you don't want to do school, we're going to back you to do whatever you want to do outside of school?
Yeah, I guess like I was pretty fortunate to go to a school where a few All Blacks come out of. So like, I had like...
There was that pathway where you
were
like, okay.
Like Brad Weber, Gareth Evans, who were like all the same age as me. Zach Guilford, like those people, I kind of...
Hawke's Bay boy then?
Yeah, I kind of had an idea that, if they can do it, then I can definitely do it.
Yeah.
And I guess around my sport too, I had people that were racing overseas and I just believe that if they can do it, then why can't I do it?
Yeah, for sure. Did you always, like, as a kid, were you always sort of, like, backing yourself, and did you believe that you could do it? Or were you just kind of, just something like you fell into and you're like, oh, okay, I'm doing well, I think I can do it?
Yeah, I guess it was just, like, go race my bike, have fun.
Yeah.
If the results come, they come. I never, to be honest, I never thought that I was going to be at a world stage in my life. I guess I probably realised that when I got selected for world champs. Obviously that was a massive thing, and went and raced world champs and kind of got a eye opener of what it was like being in Europe and racing on an international scene. And I guess it probably didn't really come until I actually got like a proper salary where I could like focus on riding my bike. I didn't have to work in the summer. I guess that's probably where it come, where I was like, I actually do believe in myself, and I believe that I can reach these goals and get to the places that I want to be.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
We've touched on it a little bit, but I'd love if you could like go into like a bit more depth about your progression to downhill mountain biking, because it's not like a very popular sport in New Zealand. Like, I feel like rugby is definitely our main sport, like you said you played, and then how did you sort of go from playing rugby and wanting to be an All Black like a lot of other guys your age to downhill mountain biking and doing it as a profession?
Yeah, I guess at the time there was a really good scene of mountain biking, like people racing overseas. So I guess that I had that idea.
So you knew about it?
Yeah, I knew about it, especially when I started racing. So I would like play rugby on a Saturday morning and then head to like Wanganui and in the afternoon to go racing on a Sunday. And I was racing with people that were racing in Europe. So yeah, I guess like the foundation and people around me was really good, and I just had the people there that could help me progress, and the competition where I was like, if I was close to them in racing, like gave me an idea that I was able to potentially go and race overseas. So yeah, like our sport is very niche. It's not that big compared to rugby. I mean, mountain biking is massive now, and I feel like it's only a growing sport, and so many people do it now.
For like leisure as well.
For leisure,
I've got like a couple of neighbours that go off to like whatever hill they're going to on the weekend to do
it's
downhill
crazy.
mountain biking.
I mean, I live in Rotorua now, and like going to the forest on the weekend, it's insane how many people go there, and it's like just kind of shows you how big mountain biking is, but it's such a niche sport that it's only sort of inside its own little world compared to rugby. So yeah, I guess like the progression side, like I progressed super quick because I had like people that were racing international that I could
Well,
compete
yeah.
against. So I feel like that was like definitely a good place to be in, and you know where I was and where I was sitting and how fast I could go.
Yeah. Do you think taking experience from those that were like more experienced than you and like racing overseas, do you think that really helped you progress quite quickly?
Yeah, it definitely did. I think it helped a lot going overseas and racing because what it used to be was that when I'd go race in Europe as a junior, I was racing with the elites, so I still would qualify with the elites, but I'd be placed in the juniors. So it kind of like, whereas now it's like you have a junior category and you have an elite category, so it's kind of a big step going from junior to elite. Whereas for me, it was kind of like a good transition from junior to elite because I was still in the same category.
Yeah, no, for sure. How did you find racing against like the guys that were elite and you were still kind of categorized in the junior? Was it quite overwhelming? Were you just like up to give it a go and just see how it went?
Yeah, I guess like I didn't really have a thought process of like racing against these guys because I never thought I would ever be like that. And I kind of just like I said earlier, I just went over and raced my bike and kind of like let the results
I've got a blind confidence.
do the talking.
And
A bit of blind confidence. I had no clue what I was doing. I was just racing my bike down the hill and hopefully qualifying. And the first year I went over, I qualified for 2 World Cups, so that was kind of like another good stepping stone into racing.
Yeah. Before we get more into your career in downhill mountain biking, for those playing at home, can you explain what downhill mountain biking is, what's involved, what sort of bikes are you using, like are there any rules to the sport, just so people can like get a good understanding?
Yeah, so basically downhill mountain biking is A to B, top to bottom, as fast as you can go. We have a course that's taped both sides, so you can't obviously leave the tape, and if you leave where you went through, you have to come back and go back to where you left. And it's basically between, I don't know, 2.5 to maybe 3.5k long tracks, just depending where we are. And it's like a variation of so much different things, like, you know, like rock gardens, lots of off-camber routes, high-speed section, jumps, just a good variation of what you would expect in a downhill mountain bike race. And we use like downhill-specific bikes, so mainly just used for going downhill. Obviously there's like different types of bikes that you can have, but ours is just mainly for downhill, so it has like 203 mils of travel, so like big suspension, big wheels, big brakes, everything that kind of makes it easier for us to go down the hill as fast as possible and have all the confidence in the world.
In terms of like the track length and like the jumps and all that sort of thing, and like the speed areas and stuff, obviously there's not going to be one track that's exactly like the other, but does each kind of competition that you go on, do they have to have like a specific amount of like jumps and speed areas and all that sort of stuff, or is it kind of just random?
To be honest, we like the places that we go to are mainly ski resorts, so they either sign like a 3 or 4 year contract with the UCI, and we'll just go back there every year. So I think it's a rule that they have to change the track maybe by 20%.
Right.
But mainly we ride the same track, and it's, I mean, like, as much as it is cool going back to the same places, it kind of gets boring. Like, for example, the first race that I'm going to, I've been going there since 2008, so it's like, you know, like, same place every year. It gets kind of boring, but they kind of like try and mix it up a little bit, try add some stuff that, you know, I don't know if there's like specific rules that they have to have like certain amount of jumps, but I know like they obviously kind of have to have everything that's going to suit, you know, from junior women to elite women to junior men. Like everything has to be within capability of everyone able to ride the track.
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess it's nothing kind of like what we'd do at hardline, for example. So yeah.
Yeah. So with because I know there's like a little bit of difference, like with the hardline stuff, there was like crazy jumps and everything. You don't have those on like your kind of average downhill mountain biking courses.
No, hardline's totally different to what I race on the World Cup circuit. Obviously we have like really technical stuff and some decent sized jumps, but nothing compared to what we have at hardline.
Yeah.
Hardline's obviously that
Crazy.
next level up of
kind of
like
scary.
having big jumps, like big road gaps, also like a little bit of technical aspect of it. But yeah, it's just like obviously the name says it's for itself. It's hardline, so it's they make it hard to ride down. And I think they're two totally different things.
Yeah, for those, I'm going to suggest everyone who's listening to go and like watch some of the YouTube videos of hardline. But for those kind of listening in the car, can you sort of explain the difference between the jumps in terms of racing, like your normal kind of World Cup stages, and then what hardline is? Because I've seen the hardline track and I was like, no thank you. That's a no from me.
Yeah, I guess with hardline,
like the jumps are crazy.
Yeah, they're massive. We have a variation of like, I think probably from like 50 to 100 foot in size of the jumps and the road gaps and stuff, compared to what I race on World Cups, which is like, we might have like 20, 30 foot jumps, but they're like really safe, whereas like hardline stuff is safe, but
well,
like it's there's a lot of preciseness that goes on. And yeah, I feel like it's so different because it brings so much more excitement to the sport. I think people that are watching it like don't really understand how actual big that stuff is, and when you watch it, it's so exciting. Just being able to see people, flying over 90-foot doubles and 60-foot road gaps. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. How do you train for something like hardline? Because it's like like I was saying, the jumps are just like insane, like 100-foot jumps. You don't really get those kind of just on your regular mountain.
No.
Do you train for it, or do you just sort of like send it and you're just like, off we go?
Yeah, literally. It's like turn up there and have all the confidence in the world, because you need so much confidence for that stuff. Yeah. And I feel like I've been to hardline before where I've lacked confidence, and like I've kind of just sat back and watched everyone do everything, and I feel like that's the worst thing, because you're like, you kind of get into your head and you're like, can I actually do that? You see some people crashing and you're like, oh, I don't know if I can actually do that. And I feel like from then to like when I went to Tassie, I was like, okay, I have to tick everything off. Like I want to be doing it as soon as possible. Not like hanging around watching. And I think like that made it so much easier. It's just, I think like for us in New Zealand, like you can't really train for that unless you're in Queenstown. Like Queenstown has some good stuff down there where they have some big jumps that I feel like probably can prepare you a little bit, but I just guess you turn up there and
just go,
have all the confidence and switch off the brain and go for it.
No, I definitely cannot relate to that. I'd be like, on such a plan, I'd be like, okay, this is what we're going to do. I need to like plan at least like, I need 10 goes down the hill or something. But like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, coming from like racing World Cups to doing that stuff, I kind of like that as well. But I feel like you just got to switch off and, have all the trust and confidence in yourself that you're able to do that stuff. Yeah,
it was a bit like when I jumped off the 6 and 10 meter at the cliff diving. I was like, I'm not waiting for anyone else to go, otherwise I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to go jump, and it's just
like
done.
The more you look at it,
and the more you like talk to yourself in your head, and you're like,
the worse it's going to be.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm the same. Like the more I talk myself out of it, and I'm going to be like, okay, I'll do it, I feel like the more consequences of something happening.
Yeah. No, someone, my dad used to say to me, because I'm quite an overthinker in like all aspects of my life,
Yeah.
which is quite a hindrance. But anyway, he always always says to me, he's like, don't think, just do it. And I'm just like, yeah, that might work. But the more I've realized, like growing up in life, I'm like, if you don't think, you don't actually get nervous, and you can just do it. And if something bad happens, just cross that hurdle when you get to it.
Yeah. I feel like
Bit different though in like day-to-day life compared to like hardline stuff.
Yeah, I think not thinking definitely helps a lot.
Yeah.
Overthinking makes things so much more difficult.
Yeah, no, definitely. Your first major breakthrough in your career was in 2009 at the Junior World Cup, where you placed gold or got gold. What was that experience like? Were you kind of going out there to win gold, or was it a surprise? Talk me through that whole experience.
Yeah, like obviously the rainbow jersey is a huge thing,
Mm-hmm.
and especially being in juniors, that was something that I was chasing for.
Around what age were you?
I think I was 17.
So still quite young.
Yeah, still quite young.
Yeah.
I like, at that time I didn't know like what training was, like how I train.
You just went out there and won.
Yeah,
That's
and
crazy.
and the track that we were racing on like had a really long flat section at the end, so I kind of didn't really know how to prepare myself for that. And I come back from Europe and I spent 4 weeks at home, and I went to my grand's place. She lives on a farm, so I kind of like excluded myself from like the partying, all my friends, because at the time, like, I was just riding my bike and having fun and going out partying and stuff like that. So I kind of like secluded myself from everything and just did training that I thought maybe would help me for
So
that
you didn't
race.
you didn't have a coach or anything?
No, I had no coach at that time. I was just like, okay, I'm going to do 20-second sprints every like minute, and I'd do that every day, not knowing what it's going to do to me.
Yeah, you're just like, this sounds all right.
Yeah. And then, obviously, like I was racing against like some pretty good competition, like had some like people that were like on big teams.
Yeah.
And I guess it was just one of those days that everything lined up.
Yeah.
Everything went perfectly. And I won gold, and that was a pretty special day, because I never thought in my life that I'd be a world champion.
Yeah.
Especially at that time. I kind of was obviously aiming to do that, but I didn't know if it was possible or not.
Yeah, for sure.
So that was a really good day.
How did winning that gold change the like trajectory of your career?
To be honest, like at that time, I thought it might have changed a lot of things. It didn't change things rapidly. I still I didn't have like many offers after that.
Yeah.
And I just had a friend who helped me out and got me onto MS Racing, which was my first big team.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't make a salary. I still had to pay for my flights to Europe and back, but sort of everything was kind of covered in Europe, which was awesome for me.
Yeah.
Because like going over there and not having to spend anything on
worry
food
about
and
that sort of aspect of it.
Just kind of got me into the doorstep of racing. And then I guess my first year lead I had some pretty good results, which then led me into the partnership with Red Bull. And then I guess everything kind of changed from there. Like, had a big brand that come on board, and had good results after that, and then started getting a small salary. Then bigger teams come along and approached me.
So it's quite like a lengthy sort of trajectory rather than just, you thought you win gold and you're like, okay, now like where's all the deals, where's all the teams coming for me? I didn't think like that was gonna happen, because like obviously living in New Zealand is so much harder than living in Europe. Like, you have like the expenses of flights, all of that stuff adds up. And I think for teams it's like easier to have someone who's based in Europe, because it costs them obviously less for travel.
and that sort of thing. So yeah, like I didn't think too much of that stuff would come because I didn't really know too much at the time either. I just kind of like, oh, maybe you're going to get this. Or, you know, maybe being a world champion is going to get me on a good team. And yeah, obviously I was fortunate enough to get on a good team. And that team really set me up to where I am now.
At in what year did you first sign with Red Bull?
I signed with them in end of 2010.
Yeah. And so 2011 was your first year in elite, is that right?
2010 was my first year elite, so second year elite with Red Bull.
Yeah. How did having like a big global brand like Red Bull see the potential in you, see that you were doing good stuff and like back you? How did that like build your confidence? Did it give you like more confidence to be like, yeah, okay, I can do this. If they believe in me, then I can do this?
Yeah, I like obviously being, you know, like a kid at a young age, like when you're into action sport and like all that stuff and see people with Red Bull helmets on, like that's always a dream to be sponsored by Red Bull. And yeah, like when that partnership come about, like I approached them in I think 2009 after I won Junior Worlds. And at the time they had Vanessa Quinn, who was a girl racing World Cup. So I think they were kind of like, we don't really need another rider. And then she retired. And yeah, it was kind of like, you know, I got the phone call and they're like, you know, you're going to be on Red Bull. And I was like, holy hell. Like, you know, like nothing before that. It was just sort of like, we kind of talked. And then that came about. And I guess like, you know, like when I first got a Red Bull helmet, I'm like, man, I feel like I have so much pressure because I got a Red Bull helmet on my head. Expectations.
Yeah, for sure.
But like, it never ever had that, you know, like that was the feeling for me, but there was no pressure from their side. Like, and I just feel like they gave me everything possible to reach my goals. Obviously, like in the earlier days, you know, I guess New Zealand Red Bull was quite small, so the budget was quite small, and we couldn't, you know, there wasn't a whole heap of things that we could do, and we done some small projects, and then obviously as it grew and like, you know, my results got better, as you know, got a bigger salary and more opportunities to do things. But yeah, like I guess having them on board is such a massive thing in my sport, well, in any sport, but just, you know, I just have endless opportunities to do things, to have help, you know.
And that's massive, like, for like someone in your position as well.
Like they have 2 athlete performance centers, one in Austria and one in LA. So like, you know, if I needed to go somewhere to go do some training, I've got those opportunities. If I'm injured, I have people around me that you know, are able to help me. It's just like a massive network of people that if I reach out to someone and I say, look, I've got this, like, can we get Brook there? He needs surgery. You know, that's it. Just everything sort of can happen so much quicker than being on the outside of that. And it's huge. And it's like just the people that are in the company, like they're all like dedicated to sport and like growing the brand, and you know, having all of their athletes reach their potential, and they give them everything they need to get to their goals and be the best they can.
Yeah, no, for sure. Have you been to either of the training facilities in Austria or LA?
Yeah.
How cool are they? Because I've seen pictures and I'm like, I want to go.
Yeah, that's
I want to go
cool.
so bad.
They're so cool. They're both different in different ways. Obviously Austria has like a European kind of style of things, and LA has like sort of a Western side of way of stuff. But they're both amazing facilities. They have everything that you could think of: nutritionists, psychologists, strength and conditioning, like cardio, all of that stuff.
Oh, how cool!
And so that's what I mean with endless opportunities. You have all those people around you. If you need someone, you know, to help you out with the mental and physical side of things, you've got them. it's really amazing, and the brand is so cool. They give you everything that you need, really.
No, that's cool. 2011 and 2012 were two pretty good seasons for you. Can you talk me through both of those seasons and some of the successes you had, but also maybe some behind the scenes stuff that maybe people on the outside looking in wouldn't have seen?
Yeah, I guess those years, they were really good years for me. Just riding bikes, partying after every race, going to the next race, doing the same thing, and I just felt like I had so much fun racing my bike. And I guess like all of that stuff, like just a combination of things really got me to getting those results. Not results that I ever expected, and there was no goals set there to like achieve certain things. I just kind of had fun riding my bike. The racing was cool. We were racing good tracks, had good people around me, and I feel like all of that, like a good combination of that stuff, really benefits, getting you to that next level and getting those results that you're chasing. And I guess especially 2012 was a really good year for me because I won my first Elite World Cup. What was that like? Yeah, it was pretty awesome. Like, obviously, I had always dreamed of doing that, and that was just like one of those days that I felt like something special could happen. I didn't know what was going to happen,
you just
but
felt aligned.
I just felt like everything that I did was right. From like my warm up to like my practice. You were in the zone. Yeah. And I feel like it's real hard to get into that sometimes.
100%, yeah.
And it's like, sometimes it can be consistent, and then other times it's not.
Yeah, and I feel like even if like one small thing is just like slightly off kilter, it's really hard to have everything else kind of locked in and feel like you're gonna like do well or be like really solid. So no, I totally get that it's cool that you were like able to like bring that all together, and those moments are like what I think all athletes live for.
Yeah, and like I always go back to that day and try remember what I did that day to like do it again now, but it's like everything's so different. Like, you obviously have so many different elements of like weather and different courses and stuff like that, but I always try and take myself back to that day and like think about that day and what I did to try and implement it into what I do now.
Do you think in those early years, because something that I've kind of realised as you've been speaking is that you really didn't, yes, you had like dreams and goals, but you weren't like putting too much pressure on them. You were having fun. You were just really enjoying what you were doing. Do you think that is what kind of made you so successful in those early years?
Yeah, I definitely think so. It probably wasn't until I actually needed to train and like needed to have some fitness behind me.
Where you were like, okay.
Yeah, I guess I felt like I just ran off natural talent. Yeah. And I feel like it's what a lot of people do.
100%.
And I feel like when you get to a point where like the talent doesn't run out, but you have to bring
add
into
to
the you have to add to it,
build on it.
Yeah, and that's what I had to do. And like I just feel like I'm still learning now, like like bringing in everything. Like I brought in a trainer, and like I guess at one point in my off season, all I focused on was like gym, riding my road bike, like not actually riding my downhill bike a heap, and just focusing on that training and actually leaving out the most important thing, which is riding my downhill bike. And time on the downhill bike is so important. And like, I think a lot of my off seasons were like that. And like, I just had in my head that I need to be the fittest I can be, because it's only going to make me better on my downhill bike.
Sure.
But also I forgot about adding in that the most important thing is of riding my downhill bike. Trying to get that
balance right.
And I think like it definitely did take over. A lot of it was just focusing on that training.
In 2013 you had to retire early from that season with an injury, and then for the next couple of years it kind of seems as though you were like plagued with like injury after injury. What was that like? Because I know I've dealt with a couple of injuries, but it's just so hard, especially when all you want to do is go out there and compete, and people are asking when you're going to get back out, or you finally get back to like a better place, and then you get injured again, or it's not quite right, and then you kind of re-injure it. What was that whole process like for you?
Yeah, to be honest, that was actually really hard because I went to the first race and I got second. So like
You were having a really good season as well.
I started off great, like sitting in second in the overall. I went to the second race. The second race I think. I think I qualified third or fourth, and then had like a small issue in my race run, and then from there I was like still top 5 overall. I went home, injured my shoulder. I did my tore my rotator cuff.
Oh, not fun.
And
that was not a fun injury. I've had the same
one.
one.
I did it the day before I was flying out into the next week of racing. So I was
Did you know at the time, like as soon as you did it, you were like, shit?
Oh, I knew something was up with my shoulder. Like it didn't feel right. And I went to the doctors and they were like, did some x-rays on it, and they're like, I think it's going to be fine. It'll just take a bit of time to heal. And I just like went from being on the top to just like slowly going downhill.
No.
And so I kept racing, like finished my season, but it was like not great.
Tough.
I missed one race, and I went home and had surgery. That was obviously my first big injury. And that obviously comes with rehab. So like I didn't really know a hell of a lot of what to do, and like kind of relied on the people around me and the physios, and like I guess at the time the physio that I had didn't really like know what I was doing and understand. So
which is hard.
And I really struggle with like getting back on the bike, and like my movement in my shoulder wasn't great. Obviously for me riding like arms down it wasn't a bother, but it was just like day-to-day stuff like overhead lifting, stuff like that I couldn't do. And that I think that like sort of like knocked my confidence probably about a year, and then I got I think in 2014 I got a podium, so that brought everything back. And then it just like confidence slowly started coming back.
I think you touched on it a little bit, but how did you think the injury like affected your mental health? When you're at the top, you're winning and you're in second in the 2013 season, and then suddenly you get this injury and you're like, oh, I can't perform at like what I used to. What was that like, and how did you know at the time that you were struggling, or looking back, do you think you struggled more?
I guess at that point, like I didn't really know too much about that. I just it was just kind of one of those things
just
that
sort of going through the motions.
The motions of it all. And I was still so young, so I was like, well, this is just an injury, it's going to take its time, I'm going to come back, I'm going to be back where I left off. I guess it probably didn't really hinder me too much then, the mental side of it. But I guess as I got older I kind of like figured that stuff out.
I want to talk about 2019 as much as you're like willing to talk about. I know like bringing out things about traumatic things that have like happened in your life can be kind of scary, so you can go into as much as little detail as you want, but I want to talk about the pretty life-altering accident you had in 2019. Can you kind of give us like where you were, what happened, all that sort of stuff, like what you remember from that day?
So 2019 I was racing world champs. I felt like I was definitely at the peak of my performance and career of where I was like wanting to be. And I qualified third, so I felt like I was definitely in contention of a good result. And it was last day of practice. So we kind of like had qualifying on the Friday, and then we had like a couple hours practice on the Saturday and race on Sunday. And like I didn't want to overdo it, so I was like, I'm just going to do maybe 2-3 runs. And it was my it was my first run.
Mm-hmm.
It obviously been pretty crap weather the day before, so the track had like
Slippery.
cut up a bit, and like I don't know, I just felt like the run up until where I crashed, I was like, this is exactly the run I want to put together for my
no
race
way.
run. And like I felt so good, like I hit everything just how I wanted to.
Yeah.
And come into the section, it was like a sort of like a tight right-hander into this sort of like rock roll.
Yeah.
Nothing like crazy, nothing like
Nothing that you weren't used to.
no,
hadn't
nothing
done
that I
before.
wasn't like, oh, what, you know, what's
Yeah.
gonna happen here? And yeah, obviously the weather like exposed some roots on the rock, and I kind of just got put off a line a little bit. My back wheel kind of kicked out and sort of kicked me over, and I just went over the handlebars probably from like maybe 3 meters, and kind of like was a rock roll, went sort of down and like slightly uphill. So I kind of like went over, and I like thought I was going to ride it out, but then I just got to a point where I'm like, this is not right. I'm not going to ride this out.
Yeah.
And then yeah, went over the bars and just landed straight on my back.
Yeah.
On like super hard ground.
Yeah.
And yeah, literally I hit the ground so hard, like it literally hit it and then bounced off the side of the track, and I was like, I didn't knock myself out, so I remember everything. And I was just lying off the side of the track on my side, and I went to try and roll over, and I was like, this is a weird feeling, like I couldn't actually like move or roll myself over, and I was like, this is not good.
Yeah.
And like I didn't really like, I had heaps of pain in my back, so I was like, I've done something to my back.
Yeah.
I didn't like, I guess at the time didn't take into account that like I was paralyzed.
Yeah.
And I was like, I like knew how bad it was, so I was like, I've got to get off this hill as quick as possible. And
I read somewhere that you were waiting for like 5 hours.
Yeah.
That would have sent me.
Yeah, it sent me. So they put me in a stretcher, and I was like, I need to, like, because I knew how serious I was. I need to get off this hill as soon as possible. And like, this was like on a big ski field. They had a big ski run that was open.
Yeah.
They were like, okay, well, we're gonna put you on the trailer of the back of this quad.
Oh shit.
They loaded me on this trailer.
Oh my god.
And like the 4-wheel drive track down was so gnarly.
Oh.
And yeah, I got on there. They started moving. I'm like, no way, take me off. And like all the people around me, like, what are you guys doing? You guys are stupid. Like,
Had you had any pain needs at this time or no?
nah, not really,
my
not
God.
really. And yeah, in Canada, they I think they have like a rule where they can't prescribe a certain like dosage of pain medication.
Oh,
so
really?
I was literally on this pain relief, which was like paracetamol,
Not touching
for 5 hours.
Oh, no.
And like it just didn't do anything. So yeah, I laid on the side of the hill. I'm like, I need a helicopter. Like, give me a helicopter ASAP.
Was anyone else, because you said that you knew that it was pretty bad, was anyone else around you kind of on your level where you're like, okay, if Brook's saying it's bad, then...
Yeah, like everyone... Because I guess like... I guess like people know me as someone who can have a big crash and get back up.
Just keep going.
And like I didn't get back up.
Yeah.
So people were like, this is obviously pretty serious.
Yeah.
So yeah, I waited 5 hours on the side of the hill waiting for a helicopter. Like they were like, it was in Quebec, so French Canadian speaking people as well.
Oh my
So
god,
I had
what
all
a
these
nightmare.
people around me, like I'm like, and they were like lying to me, like, yeah, the helicopter's like 15 minutes away, and like
no
I could,
way.
like kept looking
Couldn't
up in the
hear
sky. I
anything.
couldn't hear anything. Then I'd hear something. They'd be like, oh, this is the chopper. It wasn't the chopper.
Oh my god.
And then yeah, so like 5 hours later, helicopter turned up.
What were those 5 hours like? Did you realise at the time it was 5 hours, or did it go?
Nah,
did it feel like longer?
It
or?
felt long.
Oh yeah.
But I didn't realize like
Because
the
that's
time.
a long time to be waiting.
It's so long. And yeah, so obviously put me in the heli. And my team manager was at the hospital, so they had like, but they were there waiting for me.
Oh no way! So they. Oh my god.
And they were like, okay, they were like, oh, do you know about a mountain bike coming in in the heli, and they were like, "Oh, yeah, we've heard of that." But they were like,
We've
"Yeah,
heard of that.
the helipad's under construction." So I had to like fly to the airport, and then get out of the airport and hop in an ambulance. So it was just a massive ordeal. And then by the time I got to hospital, had all my checks, it was like almost midnight, and they couldn't do surgery, so I was in surgery the next day at 8:00. But yeah, it was a crazy day. Like,
that's insane.
Worst day of my life.
Yeah,
like,
for
it
sure.
was horrible, and to experience something like that, I guess now I look back at it, it was horrible. At the time, I was kind of like, just, all I wanted to do was get to the hospital, because I knew how serious the injury was. And had surgery the next day. I think it was like 8-hour surgery, and I had 2 rods and 8 screws put into my back. And when
you were in hospital and you were told by the doctors like the exact injury you had, what were your initial thoughts? What were you thinking? Were you like sort of
I
in shock?
really didn't get told.
Oh, you didn't?
What my injuries were.
Oh, no way.
Like, it was just.
So were you?
I knew.
Yeah.
I knew that I had like a fracture and a burst fracture in my back, but to the extent I didn't have a clue, because I'd obviously never been through that, or never really paid too much attention to what can actually happen in your back. But I was pretty lucky that I had really good people around me, people that didn't like say, this is it, you're never going to walk again, or don't think about
I'm so
going
glad
back
you didn't, because I've heard stories of people like being told like that you're never gonna like walk again, and if someone said that to me, I'd be like, thank you like so much for that information.
Yeah, and all you want to do is prove them wrong, right?
Yeah.
And I guess like I probably was lucky that I didn't have that, because in my head I probably would have had that sitting in the back of my head, and who knows, I might not have been, might not be where I am now.
Yeah, for sure. With any sort of spinal injury, there's always going to be like a decent amount of rehab, and that's like if you're lucky. Like, would you consider yourself like quite lucky to be in the position you're in now? Yeah.
Obviously, the burst fracture was sitting on my spinal cord. I was so lucky that I didn't damage it. It was only putting pressure on it, and
those are like millimeters of like room in between, like having it being like way more serious, and then like there's like such a small line with it,
and like
which is crazy when you think about it.
When you pierce your spinal cord, that's when it's over, and you don't really regain that feeling. So like I was so lucky that it was just putting pressure on my spinal cord, and when they decompressed that, I think it was about 2.5 days until like I got some feeling back, like was able to move my toes. I had like feeling from my hips to my knees, like on the top of my legs, like normal sensation, but everything else was like burning, numb sort of sensation.
Was that quite scary for you? Or were you just like, it will get better?
I kind of didn't really know what it was. Like I just kind of dealt with it and dealt with the emotions and just hope that it got better each day. So it was a big process, like everything that come with it that you'd never ever think breaking your back would do. It's like it's you can never I can never relate to a person that hasn't broken their back
100%,
and give them the understanding of what I felt and what I went through, because it's something that you'll never understand until you speak to someone who's had the same injury, and you're like, oh yeah, like I get this numbness down my leg, like it's a crazy like sensation that is so hard to explain to someone normal, but when you explain it to someone who's gone through the same thing as you, they're like, oh yeah, I totally understand it. That's what I get as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. Can you speak to me a little bit about your rehab journey? How long was it? And when you're coming out of hospital, and were you always like, I'm going to be back on like real soon? Like, was that always your goal?
Yeah, my goal, like basically from day one was I'm going to race my bike next year. Yeah. I didn't know if it was doable or not.
You were just like, but
that was my goal, and that's what I knew would get me to where I am now. And like, to be honest, like the rehab went super quick. I was just so focused on, you know, each small step. And like they had me up standing 2 days after, which like obviously I had a lot of help, but felt good.
Yeah.
And when that happened, I was like, maybe there is like some hope here that I can actually walk again. And like I knew in my head that I was going to walk again. Like I told myself that.
No question about it.
Yeah. And yeah, obviously that goal from the start really drove me to getting back to racing. And like I didn't have anything to prove to anyone. I just had it to prove to myself because I'd set that goal and I wanted to be racing my bike the following year. And obviously it was a challenge for me too. So yeah, the process was super quick. Like I spent 2 weeks in Canada, obviously like organising insurance and flights and stuff like that. And then I got to New Zealand and spent 4 weeks in Burwood, which is a spinal unit down there.
In Christchurch. Yeah.
That was amazing. Like had great people there, good people around me. My physio was a mountain biker herself, so and she knew who I was, so like
how cool.
Yeah, it kind of made everything so much easier. So she understood where I was coming from and my goals and what I wanted to do. And at that time I couldn't like properly walk, so my next goal was to leave Burwood walking, which I did, and I worked like super hard to get there. And like with that injury comes like so much fatigue. Like I lost 12 kilos. I just like wasted away. I had no muscle, nothing. So having to like build all that stuff again and just relearn to walk, like I feel like the last time I had to learn to walk again when I was a kid. And I never ever thought
it's not often that you got to like relearn how to
I
walk.
never thought in my lifetime that I would have to relearn to walk again. And like I feel like learning to walk when you're a kid, like everything sort of comes naturally.
I don't even remember learning to walk.
No, me either. But like, you know, your parents don't say, okay, you got to do this and do that. It just sort of comes naturally.
Yeah.
And like for me, being an adult, having people to tell me this is what you have to do, like having to remember to lift my foot, lift my feet, like sway my arms.
Actually, your brain telling, like, that's crazy.
Like in my head, I could tell myself what to do, but the function of everything, it just didn't work.
Wow.
So yeah, like that was a big process, and I was like, I just in that process of being in Burwood, I just was like, man, I need to know if I can ride a bike. So I like organised a bike, and like 5 weeks post my surgery, I hopped on a bike and rode a bike. I rode a bike way better than I walked, so that kind of gave me another bit of hope, knowing that I was able to ride a bike. And then I just went back home, and luckily with into 2020 we had COVID, so like a
bit of a saving grace
for me. Like my season was mostly cancelled and we didn't go racing until the end of the year, so that basically gave me another half a year to rehab and get back to where I potentially could be. And then I knew that I had to have like my rods removed out of my back because they really hindered me. Hindered me riding. Like the restriction was way too much, and I could ride my bike, but not at the potential I knew
with the rods in your back.
I needed to be at. So I had them not all of them taken out, but a majority of it, which was a huge relief. Like that just made everything so much easier. And then that like was another step in my rehab, and gave me more room to improve and get stronger and prepare myself for racing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
How because you're made a full recovery now.
Yep.
Yeah. How much more meaningful do you find it to compete now, like post accident and rehab and all that sort of stuff, compared to before?
I guess now, like, it's one of those things that I just forget about. Like, I don't fall back onto my injury because I feel like I'm at full health. So, you know, I'm not going to have a bad result and go like, that was, you know, injury related, or I didn't feel good today because, like,
I've got rods on the back.
I guess, like, that's sort of like, I I don't feel like I'm those people that kind of person that kind of blames my injury. And I just guess that it's been put aside. I forget about it. I actually forget about that I broke my back and that I have rods in there. Just everything kind of feels like it did before my injury.
In a recent press release, you were quoted saying, "I think the biggest outlook on my life now is that life can change in a heartbeat." How has your mindset in your day-to-day life changed in terms of gratitude and like appreciating life since the accident?
Yeah, I guess the appreciation to life is way more than it was before. Obviously, I did appreciate life, but
for sure.
I just thought that I was bulletproof. Like, especially in my sport, I didn't think anything was going to happen to me. And then when it did, when my career and job was almost taken away from me, I felt like I realized that everything that I do, the things that I do, the places that I travel to, I have so much more respect, and like I feel like it's just way more appreciating that I get to do this as a job and that I actually got a second chance at life.
Because it could have gone like a completely different way.
I could be sitting here in a wheelchair and like I really don't know how I would be dealing with that now if that was thrown at me, just because of the person I am and what I've come from. I obviously I did appreciate life before that, but I appreciate it way more, and like everything that I do, I take into account that like I've been given a second chance.
For sure.
Do that.
No, definitely. I want to quickly touch on the Wings for Life event that's happening at the start of May. For those that don't know what it is, firstly, can you talk through what the Wings for Life event is?
Yeah, Wings for Life is basically a charity event that Red Bull has set up. It's to help with spinal cord research and to help, find the cure to getting people back to walking. And it's an event that's held across the world. And you run at any time, anywhere in the world. So obviously,
I think it's like 11 p.m.
in New
Zealand.
It'd be like 11 a.m.
Love that
in
for
Europe.
us Kiwis.
So it's basically just set up to run for a great cause. You have a catch car that follows you, and when it catches you, that's you done. So you can run as far as you want or as little as
I'd
you
be
want.
running for like 10 metres and then it would catch me and I'd be like...
but it's for such a good cause. And I think for me it's close to me because obviously I was in that position where I could have potentially been in a wheelchair. And Red Bull obviously had a lot to do with my recovery and helping me get back to where I am now. So I feel like, if you can join. You can do it anywhere. You don't have to be, be at the event. You can be running on the street. But just 5th of May, 11 p.m. In New Zealand. Join my team too. I've got a team. I've made a team. It's called We've Got the Runs.
I love that. That's a good one. That's creative.
So I mean, you're donating to a great cause. 100% of the profits go to the research and helping find that cure for spinal cord injury.
Like you mentioned just briefly, I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to understand why this event is so important to you, but can you, like, from your own perspective as someone who has had a spinal cord injury and was very like touch and go whether they would make a full recovery, how can the funding help spinal cord injuries, and how do you think these events like the Wings for Life can really help aid in advancing spinal cord research?
I think it's just finding that cure. How can we cure people that have a spinal cord injury to potentially being able to walk again, whether it's from, I don't know, like advanced research into figuring out how you're going to heal a spinal cord and be able to regain that function to your body and arms and legs. All of that stuff comes with it. And I think
Yeah.
of just putting it into having the right people behind there to find that cure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, cool. Before we wrap it up, we've talked a lot about your career, but I want to know who Brook is without the helmet and without the bike. Who is Brook the person? What are you into? What are you passionate about? What do you do when you're not being crazy, riding down hills and jumping over 100-foot gaps? Tough question, I know.
Tough question. I definitely don't like to blow my own trumpet.
I know. It always makes people uncomfortable and I get a little bit of joy out of it.
Especially New Zealanders. I feel like we're so humble.
I love asking other people, but as soon as I get asked, I'm like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
It's just not the next question.
I guess I'm just like any other person.
Yeah.
Down to earth.
Mm-hmm.
I love being outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
I love eating good food.
Yeah. Same.
Traveling.
Yeah.
And I love playing a bit of golf,
Yeah.
riding my motorbike, bit of surfing,
Mm-hmm.
and just riding my bike with anyone. Like, I feel like people think because I'm a professional mountain biker that they don't want to ride with me because
I
they
wouldn't
don't
want to
want to
ride
know.
with
Yeah, they think, oh, he's so good. Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to ride with someone who's so good. But I feel like, I get the most satisfaction out of riding with people that are just riding bikes for fun or that
That's
are
really
not good,
cool.
and like
Yeah.
where I can help them in places. I'm more than happy to do that. But
Yeah.
I don't care if I go out riding with someone who's fast or someone who's slow. I just
Yeah.
enjoy riding my bike.
Yeah.
And
Would you be embarrassed if I had little training wheels on the bike as well?
I'm sure you
Would
don't
that-
need training wheels.
No, but would it work going downhill just
Well,
for safety
wouldn't,
purposes?
it definitely wouldn't work, but I'm sure we can figure something out.
Okay. We'll make it happen.
yeah, but I guess that's the kind of person I feel like I am.
Yeah, nice. So what's next for you? What's on the calendar for the rest of 2024?
I head to Europe next Wednesday,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm over there for 10 weeks racing
Yeah.
World Cup. So
Long
I
time
have-
away from home.
Yeah, long time away from home. I have, I think, 1, 2, maybe 5 World Cups.
Mm-hmm.
Not all back to back, but like weekends in between. And then big break in the season. I have hardline Wales in between that.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And then another block in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
and then Canada, and that's my season done.
Nice. And you're looking forward to it?
Yeah, I really am looking forward to it. I have
Yeah.
a new team this year, so just a bit more hunger and
Yeah.
excitement in my career, and yeah.
Yeah. As we kind of wrap this up, for someone who might be sitting at home that maybe knows someone with a spinal injury or is going through something, not even like specifically a spinal cord injury, but is going through a really tough time in their life, they've just been given something that's going to like alter their life a little bit, what would be like your one piece of advice that you would give to people in that situation?
I think like with any injury, you get so hung up on the fact that it's going to affect your life, and I feel like you don't need to
Dwell on that
because the body's an amazing thing. It can do so much crazy stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And I feel like if you have good people around you, you're willing to put the work in, anything is possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like the biggest thing is having good people around you.
Yeah.
Goals too. I feel like they get you a long way, and having that stuff really helps with whatever you're going through.
Yeah.
I just think that it's so important to have like those fundamentals around you.
Yeah.
That's going to really help you get to whether it be back to full health or dealing with something that you've been thrown at that is going to be life changing.
100%.
And I think it's that sort of stuff definitely has a different outlook on life, and I think having a positive outlook on life is going to make things so much easier.
Yeah, for sure. No, I love that. Well, that kind of wraps us all up. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you and hearing your story, learning about downhill mountain bike riding, and I just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for being so open, and I've loved chatting to you.
Yeah, thank you. It's been good.
Yeah, no, that is all us done. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Yay. Lauren.
That was so good. That was a great chat.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad you liked it.
Great question.
Yeah, that was real good.